And state if you will call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. We'll be calling EMT technician Kenneth Martin to the stand.
All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record.
Kenneth Martin.
All right, state you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir. So you have identified yourself as Kenneth Martin. How are you currently employed?
Paramedic in the San Antonio Fire Department.
How long have you been a paramedic with the San Antonio Fire Department?
Paramedic, a little more than 9 years.
Okay. So is there a difference between being an EMT technician and a paramedic?
So we have EMT basics, which is everybody in the fire department. When we first come in, we go through EMT basic school. They're allowed certain amounts of skills from our medical director. And then we go through paramedic class, which is like a 7-month class of more training. Gets signed off by the medical director to practice more advanced skills.
Okay. And being a paramedic, you were a firefighter before this, right?
Yes.
Okay. How long were you a firefighter?
About 4 years.
Okay. So being a paramedic is an upgrade or a promotion from a regular firefighter, an engineer?
It's a little bit separate. When we come in as firefighters, some people come in as a paramedic already if they went through outside school. But everybody's going to come in as a private firefighter. And then when we promote to engineer, most of us probably get put through paramedic school and transferred into the EMS division.
Okay. And so in your 9 years as a paramedic, how many calls do you think that you've gotten?
We average 12, 15 calls a day. So a lot.
And the way your shift works is it's one 24-hour shift and then 3 days off, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many calls have you received where it turned out that the complainant or the person that was harmed was severely injured?
A lot.
Well, let me ask you another question. How many severe injury accidents or fatality accidents have you worked on?
Our accidents?
Yes, sir.
Those are probably a little more rare. We don't see fatal ones too often. Still more than 20 off the top of my head.
Okay.
Just roughly guessing.
So if you were dispatched to one on October 13th, going on October 14th, 2023, you would have had experience with these kind of crashes beforehand.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, were you dispatched to a call at Five Palms and Military on October 13th, 2023?
Yes.
Let me ask you, is your memory of that night perfect?
Oh, no.
Did you write a report that night?
Yes, I did.
Would a copy of a report help refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
This is
Sir, I'm showing what's been labeled as State Exhibit D for identification purposes. Can you tell me what that is?
This is the patient care report.
That's a copy of the report that you wrote that night? Okay. So use this to refresh your memory. It's not in evidence. So if you come to a question that you don't know the answer to, feel free to look down, read your report, refresh your memory, but don't read directly from it as this is not in evidence. Good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right.
all right, sir. From your knowledge, what was the nature of this call at Five Palms and Military on October 13th, 2023?
We were dispatched to a MVC, motor vehicle collision.
Okay. And to your knowledge, is the incident location, Military and Five Palms, is that located in Bexar County, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. And this happened on October 13th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. When you arrived on the scene, what did you observe?
When we got on scene, there was already a fire crew on scene. They had changed the call prior to our arrival to a traumatic cardiac arrest. When it doesn't change in the report, it doesn't change our dispatch information when that happens. So when we got there, the fire crew already had the patient outside of the vehicle when they were working on the patient. And that's really all I remember seeing as we rolled up.
Okay. Did you see a person that was injured in one of the vehicles involved?
The only person I saw involved in the accident was the patient on the ground being worked on by fire.
Okay, and what was the name of this patient? If it'll help, should be at the very top of your report.
The sticker. Can I remove the sticker?
I think it should be on the second page.
Jose Fernandez.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, when you got there, and by refreshing my memory from your report, did you observe the person in the vehicle, Jose Fernandez, to be restrained or unrestrained?
He wasn't in the vehicle when we got there, so I never observed him in the vehicle.
Oh, okay. How did you observe him?
On the ground with the fire crew.
Was the fire crew already working on him?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you describe the injuries that were sustained by Jose Fernandez?
He had a depressed skull injury. Believe it was on the left side of his head. But it was above the left ear, I believe. That was the only major injury that we noticed.
Okay. Can you tell me what is angonal respirations?
Agonal respirations is when the person appears to be breathing. We also call it guppy breathing, but they are not ventilating sufficiently. They're not moving air through the lungs enough.
Let's go back real quick to what you're talking about. You said a depressed skull injury. What does that
It
mean?
means there was an indention in his head.
Okay. Is that usual or unusual
That's
in car crash? Okay. Is that a traumatic injury?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to angonal breathing. Have you heard that before?
Agonal breathing?
Yes, angonal breathing.
Like heard the term or
Heard it actually in real life.
I mean I've seen it at many calls.
Okay. Let me play for you what's been already admitted, state exhibit number 39. Did you hear that gurgling sound?
I'm not object to leading, Judge.
Sustained.
Sir, did you hear? Let's play it one more time. Tell me if you hear a sound.
I hear that sound. That's
Did you hear any kind of angular respirations that time?
so you wouldn't hear a true agonal respiration. It would look more like they were gulping for air.
Okay.
As far as I know.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Did you perform an examination of Jose Fernandez?
I examined him, yes. Probably in the back of the ambulance. I don't remember doing it on the ground.
Okay. Can you describe his condition in the back of the ambulance?
So in the back of the ambulance, he was completely unresponsive. He did have a pulse, and we were assisting respirations the entire time. That's really what he had the head injury. He was completely unresponsive, what we call GCS3. So no eye movement, no motor movement, no verbal response at all to anything.
So completely unresponsive, dead to the world.
Completely unresponsive.
Okay.
Can't use the word dead.
When you said absolutely, when you said that you had to assist his breathing, how did you do that?
Fire was using a BVM, so a mask, and they were bagging him. I believe they had stuck an airway device in his mouth, a little piece of plastic, We call it an OPA in the report, and that opens up the airway while they bag him. Later, I think during transport, I intubated the patient, and then we ventilated him through the endotracheum.
Okay. Without that breathing assistance, would he have been able to breathe on his own?
Fire reported that he was not breathing sufficiently on his own when they started the ventilations. And the fact that they were able to stick that device down his mouth meant that he no longer had a gag reflex, because he would have thrown up or attempted to vomit once they stuck that device in his mouth. Whatever they found, he wasn't breathing sufficiently for them. So they started assisting, and we just continued to keep everything.
So without that assistance, he would not have been able to breathe on his own?
He probably was not breathing on his own, or not breathing sufficiently.
Okay. What is a priority 1 trauma alert?
Priority 1 trauma alert meets our trauma criteria. It's a critical patient that needs to go to a trauma center, either University Hospital or BAMC, depending on where we're located. We went to University with him because that was the closer hospital. The criteria he met, he was in a traumatic event, and he had multiple. With his GCS being 3, that automatically qualified him. He's needing active airway assistance, that automatically qualified him.
Okay. What kind of I may have asked this question already. What kind of life-saving measures did you perform on Jose Fernandez?
So we continued to ventilate the patient. We achieved a better airway. We got IV access on him, and we were able to push some fluids to him to try. He had a blood pressure when we got him in the ambulance, so he was not pulseless. So we gave him fluid to try to keep filling him up and keep his blood pressure up on the way to the hospital.
Okay. What was his pulse while you were transporting him?
His pulse stayed looking in the range between 60 and 100.
Okay.
Between
And what-
60 and what?
60 and 100.
And is that the range for a normal person?
That is the range for
Okay. Was Jose Fernandez still alive when you dropped him off at University Hospital?
Not a doctor, but I believe clinically he would be considered alive because he had a pulse, which means his heart was still beating.
He was completely unresponsive and needed assistance to breathe.
We were breathing completely for him at that time through the endotracheum.
Okay. Judge, we'll pass this witness.
Take notes. Mr. Martin, you have your report in front of you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said that when you arrived on scene, fire had already preceded you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you arrive on scene, it's important for you to gather information in order to best medically assist the patient, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you do that?
Correct. So the way it works, there's 2 of us. So one of us is driving, and one of us is, we call them the doctor. And so we're all gathering information from what we see and what we're talking to each other's crews. But my partner, who had the computer, was compiling the initial part of the report, is gathering more of the information from everybody, at least as far as like demographics and maybe getting a quick look at what happened.
Okay. But you only compile one report as a team,
That is correct.
and you've reviewed that, and that's what you have in front of you.
That's correct.
Okay. But all of that information is necessary for you to perform the best medical care for the patient.
Probably the more information we have, the better.
Okay. And in fact, in your report, you list that the patient Jose Fernandez was an unrestrained driver of the motor vehicle, correct?
I did put that in the.
Okay. You actually, I think your exact quote when you testified was to the prosecutor, you can't use the word dead, right? He was actually still alive at the time, correct?
As far as I know, again, not a doctor. I believe you're not dead until you have no heartbeat and no brain activity.
Okay. And so this is not something you would classify as dead on arrival.
Oh no, because he had a pulse, we wouldn't classify him as dead.
Okay. And would it actually surprise you to learn that he lived for approximately 9 days after the incident?
Maybe a little, but his vitals, when I look at the report, his final vitals upon arrival were decent. other than the fact that he was completely unresponsive and that we had to breathe for him.
Okay. And in fact, things happen all the time in the medical world, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
People respond differently to injuries. There's no absolute that every single person with these same injuries would have passed from these injuries, correct?
I don't know because I can't see what happened to his head.
Okay. Fair, but people recover from serious accidents all the time.
Judge, I'm gonna object to that. That's been asked and answered by defense counsel already. It's a cumulative question.
All right, that'll be overruled.
You can answer. People survive from serious accidents like this all the time.
People survive from serious accidents, yes.
Yeah, I'll pass the witness.
Any further questions?
No further questions, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Excused by the state.
Excuse from defense.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone while this case is pending. All right, thank you.
I leave this.
If you'll just leave that there. As a matter of fact, if you can, Porter, thank you. All right, state, call your next witness.
Judge will be calling Dr. Nathan Hendricks.